Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
I want you to really think about this statement, and it's true. How is it we can elect multiple Muslims into office, teach Islam in our schools, but a Christian on the Supreme Court sends the left crazy? Think about that. Here comes Kate Smith, and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot. Come on, Patriots, don't let me down with the Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. I love that song. I never tire of it. And good morning. I'm Zeb Bell. Zeb at the Ranch with, of course, our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations ready to serve you with the best of tires and service. And believe me, all 7 locations really have the best for you. Brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all there. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, Zeb. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jerry. No greater patriot than you are. I appreciate that. God bless you, man. Right now, we're going to scoot to the weather forecast. And the weather brought to you by Roger and the crew over at K&R Rental. You know, we are going to see some dips in the temperature. And at K&R Rental, they've got all the equipment to blow out those sprinkler systems and the pipes. And they've got all the equipment to winterize and get your garden ready to go to bed for the winter. They've got it all the best tools and equipment over there at K&R Rental, and they're easy to find. They're right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them, let me tell you. And they've got rental on equipment for both long and short term. Get a hold of them today, K&R Rental. And right now, let's see what the weather's going to be.
Typical weather conditions for today, wind advisory for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. For today, we are expecting mostly sunny skies, a slight breeze out of the west-southwest at about 15 miles an hour, gusts as high as 28 miles an hour, and a high of 61. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low of 41. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. Winds will be picking up out of the southwest at about 17 miles an hour. And then, of course, wind advisory and gusts as high as about 30 miles an hour. Partly cloudy skies for Wednesday night, low of 28. For Thursday, sunny skies, 46 and 54 Friday. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I am so sick and tired of wearing my hat so tight on my head that when I take it off, right on my forehead it says Resistol 20X. I mean, I can't stand wearing my hat that tight. The wind, the wind, the wind. And, of course, K&R Rental brings you the weather. And all you need to do to find out more about the tools and equipment you need to finish any kind of a construction project, give them a call, 678-3122. K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn. Thank you very much. Caller, I'll be right there in a minute. You know the drill. I've got to pay some bills here real quick, and I want to remind everybody about but, take care of your clothes. I know when you wear them and you kind of throw them in a pile and you say, oh, well, take care of them. And the best way to take care of them and have a longer life for your clothes is dry cleaning. And the best is at Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. We've been going in there with our clothes for, 18, 20 years. They are the best at what they do, and they'll prove it to you. All you have to do is just give them a call or stop in. Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. They are the best. I also want to urge you that Ramsey Heating and Electric, oh my goodness, they got there early this morning at 7:30, threw open the doors and they said, hello world, come on in for all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, and I do mean all. They've got everything there for you, and the knowledge and the experience and the people, it's all there at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to you, Zeb, and good morning to your whole family.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Hunter Biden's laptop was discovered in a shop where they were repairing it. Anyway, the FBI eventually got it, but they've had it, my understanding is, for about a year now. Now, it's starting to come out, and every news outlet, including these social medias, have blocked it from the people being able to hear what it's all about. Now, our problem's going to be, they're going to continue to keep this swept under the rug, I call it, to the American people until after the election. Now, if Joe is elected, you will hear no more about it. But if he isn't, I think President Trump will be inviting him to a very big barbecue.
I don't know, nor do I care, when and what time and how this computer was discovered with these emails and these salacious videos and pictures, etc., from Hunter Biden. I don't care. I do care about the censorship that's going on in this country. I can tell you, Keith, that some of the efforts by the left in this country that want to shut us up, and when I say us, I'm talking about myself, I'm talking about Rush Limbaugh, I'm talking about Hannity, I'm talking about everybody that's in this business on a conservative side. The left wants to shut us up and censor and put us out to pasture. And I'm sick and tired of censorship in this country that should be a free country. You deserve to know what's going on.
Oh, I certainly think so. And President Trump, through his rallies, he's getting some of that information out. Now, wasn't it marvelous what kind of a turnout he had in California?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, these people are getting sick and tired of being oppressed by people like Shifty Schiff.
Oh, you know what? You just spoiled what little breakfast I had by mentioning Adam Schiff. How dare you? That is one of the most disgusting, unpalatable people I have ever seen and or heard. Thank you, Keith. You just spoiled my day by mentioning the name only, Adam Schiff.
No, I helped you because it made you ill now, and you will not have your breakfast, and therefore you will lose weight.
Easy, buddy. Easy, buddy. All right. Thank you, Keith. Talk to you later. Appreciate it. God bless. Have a good day. Caller, I'll be there in a moment. Stand by. Go vote. We, the people, remember that. We, the people, have the civic obligation to choose our leadership. Be sure and vote for the candidate of your choice on November 3rd. This message paid by the re-elect District 27 Representative Fred Wood Committee, Steve Westfall, Treasurer. And I also want to remind you about a great place to go eat. And I'm not just saying that either. I mean it, because I just think the world world of Thomas and Michelle, the whole crew at Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland in Burley. And they've got another one, too, at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Now, we are etching, and itching. I said itching. I meant to say inching. Closer to the holidays, and on the menu they're going to have the big turkey dinners and all the delicious pies, along with all the breakfast, lunch, and dinner and desserts. Oh my! Delicious food and great people serving you at America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. I know it was a good morning. One thing I'd like to bring out to you, I hope the American public realize that the Biden family is owned financially by the Chinese Communist Party. And the reason why they picked the Biden family for that is because they are the weakest link in the chain of the Communist Party and the Democratic Party. They understand that the United States would be taken over by them because the Biden family is so money hungry.
Well, Tony, I've got to interrupt you there, and you're one of my dearest friends, and when you say that the Biden family is owned by the Chinese, etc., we don't have all the proof of that. You can make the allegations, you can make the insertions that you think this is true, but there again, it's speculative. I only deal with facts on my program, and I don't trust the Bidens. I don't have anything as far as any trust at all for Hunter Biden, let alone his big daddy, old slow Joe. But to say that they are owned by and make accusations that are deemed to, in your opinion, be true, I've got to have fact.
I don't know how we can get them because it seems like the FBI and everybody else is going along with what the Communist Party wants, and that takes this country over, and they are picking up, going after the weakest links in the Democratic Party.
Well, I can't argue with you that I think the naivete of the American public is really showing forth when you hear, let's say on Fox News, some of the interviews with the man on the street interviews about how naive, I mean, and I'm going to just come right out and say it, stupid much of our American public is about socialism, much about the Chinese threat, much about what's going on with the COVID crisis, if you want to call it that. I just think the naivete of the American people is astounding. People are not taking the time to educate themselves on the facts.
Well, it's a good thing we've got you on the air here in Idaho, and I hope everybody votes for Donald Trump.
Amen to that, brother. Pass the collection plate and say amen again. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
God bless you, man. Thanks. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you, Clark Kaufman asked for your vote to re-elect him as Idaho State Representative, District C25B. Even more, Clark wants you to get out and exercise your right to vote. That's right. Clark Kaufman has served Idaho well since 2012, serving you, serving all of Idaho. In order to logically keep our voices heard, Clark encourages you to vote yes on the constitutional amendment, changing the language to simply require the legislature to consist of 35 districts. Let's all do our part. Get out and vote. Paid for by the committee to re-elect Clark Kaufman for House Seat 25B. Debbie Kaufman, Treasurer. Also, real quick, I want to remind you that I know some people that they've been on our program now for, I think, well over 2 years. And I have the utmost respect for them and the way they run their business, and that's Dino's Septic Service. They are all over southern Idaho, correcting problems like septic tank pumping and liquid waste removal, sewer and sink drain lines cleaned, and they can install water and sewer lines, great backhoe services. They've got all the equipment. They've got the best of people. Call them, 436-6526 or 678-1638, and in Twin, 735-8281. And be sure and blow out those water lines before Thanksgiving. Oh, we're going to see some cold. Yes, we are. And Dino's Septic Service is there to serve you. You get a hold of them today. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927. If I stop occasionally and swallow, I'm trying a new kind of cough drop, and it's ugly. It's really ugly. Worst tasting cough drop in the world. I won't even mention the name, but my grandmother used to say. Have you noticed that all the changes and the alterations that they are making for the presidential debate on this Thursday? I know I'm prejudiced. I know I am pro-Trump. But really, they are doing they being the commission, the debate commission, they are doing everything they can to slow down President Trump at the debate and help old slow Joe. I mean, come on. They're changing the rules. Now they're going to have a cutoff mic. I don't agree with that at all. To me, that's nothing more than censorship. If these two guys want to go up there and go at each other through the entirety of the debate, more power to them. And to have a cutoff microphone, that really bothers me, because in a quote that is in a story that was sent to me early this morning, the campaign for Trump is really, really upset at this commission because they are contemplating, that's the word, contemplating, giving an unnamed person, I hate unnamed persons, a button that could mute the candidates' mics. And when this unnamed person thinks something has been said that is not correct or acceptable, bloop, they cut them off. I don't like that. That's not America. We can say and think and react to what's ever being said in this country without censorship. Maybe you think it's a good deal. I do not. Especially by an unnamed person. And the other thing that just is kind of cutting apart my bale of hay is that NBC News has had already one moderator, if you will, and she wasn't very doggone good. As a matter of fact, she was very poor. Now they've got another one for this third debate, and I talked about her yesterday, Kristen Welker, and she has released her selected topics for the third debate, which include national security, the COVID-19, racism in America, leadership, American families, climate change, and leadership. Well, those are items that are all well and good, but they're not the hot-button issues. There's a lot of things to talk about. And I just don't like somebody like Kristen Welker basically saying, well, I have selected these because I know better than the American public. But what really frosts my muffins is that there's going to be possibly an unnamed person shutting off the microphones. What are your thoughts on that? I'm so sick of censorship. I really am. It just makes my blood boil. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, be sure and vote November 3rd, and be sure to vote yes for the levy increase for the Rock Creek Fire District. They are always there to serve us. Now let's help them. Vote yes for the Rock Creek Fire District levy, paid for by the Rock Creek Firefighters Association. Absolutely. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Zeb. I just got on the pickup, and you were talking about having somebody turn off the microphone, and I heard you a little bit here about 10 minutes ago, but if a moderator, or I guess you'd say someone who's asking the questions, can't be fair enough to let the other person respond, whether they are on either side of the aisle or where they stand, it's not really a interview. It's more like a bashing or harassment, I guess you could say. What's the point in interviewing somebody if you don't let them get their side across? You ask them a question and keep fighting at them and fighting at them and fighting at them, and that's not really an interview, is it?
Well, You know, Riley, I just think that when we start letting a unnamed person sit there at a control board and all of a sudden, let's assume that either side, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, they say something that this unnamed person doesn't agree with, clip! They shut the mic off. I don't want that in a free society. If that candidate wants to say something that's going to act like a shovel and dig a hole for him, let him do it. On the other side of the coin, if something is said that the other person wants to respond to right away, let him do it. I'm sick and tired of having censorship.
I agree with you, and I only said what I said because there's very too much of that. I watched some of the town hall, I guess you would say, here a couple days ago with the president, and I don't know the lady's name, but it seemed like she kept interrupting him. She'd ask him a question.
Yes.
He would say something, and she would jump right down his throat, interrupt him, wouldn't let him get a complete thought out, and then try to play it off that he was a bad, couldn't make decisions, this, that, and the other. Well, keep your dang mouth shut so we can listen to the guy, to what he has to say. And it all comes down to they're afraid of the president.
Yeah.
They're very afraid of him because he actually makes sense when he talks. He has something to talk about. He has a past and a precedence to stand on, which is very firm of what he's done to the American people. And he's not afraid to back it up. And he's not afraid to bite back when someone bites at him. And they don't like that. They want a coward that'll run from them and hide underneath the rug in the corner.
If I were, and I mean this, Riley, if I were Donald Trump, underneath the auspices of what happened with the last so-called town hall with this idiot moderator from NBC interrupting every single thing that he was trying to say or point he was trying to elaborate on, I would have very respectfully looked at her and said, evidently you know more about these subjects than I do. Thank you very much. And I would have walked off the stage.
It's probably what I would have done too, even though I would have wanted to say something different. You have to be dignified. You have to use you have to be kind, even though you don't want to be. But yeah, I would have done the same thing. See you later. Thanks for the time that I did happen to have on your show, and I'm taking leave.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're absolutely right.
I would not subject myself to having some clown in a circus outfit as a moderator trying to interrupt my every point and my every answer to a question that had already been addressed. I would have very respectfully said, it seems like you know more about these subjects than I do, so it's really going to be a waste of my time and the American public's time. Thank you. You go ahead and answer your own questions. I would have got up and walked off the stage. Got to run, Riley. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Real quick, and then we'll take caller number 2. Go vote November 3rd and vote yes for the amendment HJR4 and leave the number of legislative districts at 35, guaranteeing that our voices will be heard on all issues and also preserving rural representation. Paid for by Speaker of the House Representative Scott Bedke of District 27, Sarah Bedke, Treasurer. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning again. Zeb, I would challenge you to find one person in this United States of America that is truly neutral. Not going to happen.
When you say neutral, give me a little bit of your explanation of what neutral means.
Well, I think we all are. You are biased. I am biased. Almost everybody is biased to one thing or another. Even as much as you love your wife, you have differences. I have differences in my house. Everybody does.
Okay.
So finding a person that is truly neutral to be on that debate commission is going to be very, very difficult.
Well, and not only that, but I'm going to throw something back at you. I do not believe, and I can't understand, how at this stage of the game, with less than 2 weeks to go before the election, how they could be interviewing, not just on one network, but many networks, people people that are completely still undecided. I have a hard time with that. I mean, when you look at the issues, it's either white or black as far as the issues are concerned. It's either going to be for the right, the Republicans and Trump, or it's going to be over here for Biden and the Democrats. I still have a hard time understanding how some people, and I listened to 3 of them again this morning that absolutely acted like nincompoops, how you could be undecided.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Everybody has got a bias. I don't care who you are. You know, you might like your neighbor, but you're going to be biased to him for some reason or another. You know, it's just the natural way we have in this world. It's called choice.
There you go. And I'll tell you what, the choice right now is limited for this year. And I'll go toe-to-toe with you or anybody that argues this, because it's a choice of keeping the American dream and the philosophy of freedom in the greatest country ever on the face of the earth with the best constitution, or changing everything and going to a socialistic value system that's absolutely worthless. I got to run. I got another call, Keith. Thank you so much.
We've got to get the true message out to as many people as we can.
I agree. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Caller, stand by. I'll be right there, I promise. I want to remind everybody, November 3rd, District 24A needs Paul Thompson in the Idaho House. Paul knows we need values established by God, fiscal responsibility, and all life matters. The right to protect ourselves and guaranteed freedom to worship and speak. A strong education system in our state, and patients are in charge, not politicians. And above all, our Constitution is never second to anyone. Vote Paul Thompson, District 24A, paid for by Paul Thompson for Idaho. Issy Gibbs, Treasurer. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Zeb. I would ask this. Would it be best that the candidates ask the questions to one another and skip the moderator?
You know something, Earl? You are not off first base and going to get picked off, because I've thought of that too. I would much rather, and I salute you for saying this, I would much rather have each candidate draw up a list of, let's say, 12 or 14 different topics. The list could go on, and they address each other. I've totally thought about that. I think it would make for a much more interesting debate, and I'm on your side, man. I like that.
Well, it's just, and I've said this in the past years ago, is they're leading us up to burning our books and our history and everything that made this country what it is today.
Well, okay, but Earl living up on the mountain in Albion, and Zeb living down here on the valley floor, and people that live in Cambridge, Wisconsin, or wherever, I really don't think that a lot of them really care about NBC News' Kristen Welker and her list of selected topics for the president to be to talk about. I want to hear from these guys about what they're going to do about the economy. I want to hear what they're going to do for national security. I want to know what they're going to do about all the problems with border security. And I certainly am not interested in NBC News' Kristen Welker and her opinions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Zed. This is essentially got to stop, the way I look at it.
Well, I think what you've done is hit the ball out of the park. I would much rather see nobody sitting in that moderator's chair, and I would much rather see the two issues addressed by the parties that are concerned to be president. Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and they can make their own list, and they could come up with their own rules of moderation on their own, and I don't need to hear the likes of a moderator interrupting continuously to sway the opinion one way or the other.
I agree with that, Reb. The last two debates, the deck has been stacked.
Oh, boy.
and we're stacking it for a third time, it looks like now.
I agree with you. And when you have an unnamed person that may be in control of the microphones, come on, Earl, isn't that a little Mickey Mouse Club censorship?
Well, there needs to be a third and fourth party in there recording that debate if this is going to be what happens, so the candidates can voice their opinion over being cut off.
Amen. Amen. Earl, take care of yourself. It's going to get chilly this weekend. Get your winter coat up there on the mountain.
Yeah, I'm hustling, trying to get things ready.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. I like that thought. You know, Donald Trump could come out and say, "Good evening, I'm President Donald Trump, and here are my list of questions and or topics that I would like to have the challenger, Joe Biden, discuss with me this evening." And the same could be said of Biden when he comes out on the stage. But this moderator business, they are putting, I think, a crown on the head of these moderators. You know, I mean, the first one was absolutely ridiculous with Chris Wallace. He's a milquetoast lefty. The second one was terrible, and now this third one with Kristen Welker. I mean, she is, on a scale of 1 to 10, she barely cracks the egg at a 1. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Caller, talk to me. I have not time for dead air.
Morning. I can barely hear you.
Well, go ahead, please.
Anyway, but the bottom line is, I mean, you talk about a stacked deck, and putting this Obama-Biden supporter as a moderator. Are you there?
I'm listening, Adrian. Keep going. Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting feedback here. So anyway, it shows you how this deck is stacked.
Yep.
This presidential debate commission hasn't got one Trump supporter on it, and so now they make up the rules and they change them, and it's just so ludicrous. I can't believe that Trump actually is going along with this, but I guess it's, you know, take what you can, and he'll make the best of it. But even the questions that they have already know about, or the topics, none of them really address the major issues.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's my point. I don't care about Kristen Welker's opinion of what she deems necessary as topics to talk about. Her opinion doesn't matter to me. It never will. I want to have these issues that are really hot-button issues, whether it's North Korea, whether it's any Russian influence, or the big question, what about China and it's trying to take over the world dominance? These are the issues, and I certainly don't care about some little grade C moderator from NBC, Kristen Welker.
Well, absolutely, and what's really sad is that the American people still, predominantly, a lot of them, you know, get all of their news from the ABC, NBC, even though their ratings are down, they still have a bigger audience than Fox News, and Fox News has Chris Wallace, and like you say, he's certainly not for Trump. And that was pretty obvious. And then Trump has to debate, the moderator for 20 minutes in the last debate. And so he'll do okay, but, boy, people ought to see through this. And if nothing, you know, this Biden thing, they need to be investigating and get it done and get that out in the open. And it shows you how biased the media is to want this country to be a socialist utopia like Venezuela.
I agree.
I believe that they would support that, but that's where we're headed. If Biden is elected, the guns are gone, the economy's down the tubes, and we're going to be in Venezuela in 10 years.
I agree with your thoughts, Adrian. I got to run and do another little commercial break, but I absolutely say kudos to you for your thoughts this morning. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, keep up the fight, and get a hold of your friends in the other states, that especially we just got to do all we can. 2 weeks from today we vote.
That's right.
People have already voted, and so get the influence out there as best we can.
I appreciate it. Thank you. You know, the point he just made at the end of that conversation is 1,000% correct. And it gripes me. Okay? I'm old-fashioned. I make no apologies for that. You won't get one from me. I believe in old-fashioned values. And I believe in going to the polls on election day. I am not in favor of all this easiness that's been afforded the American public to go with early voting. 31 million people. 31 million people have already voted. 31 million. And I just don't think it's right. I've said this is wrong from the get-go. Go to the polls. Go to the polls on November 3rd and vote. November 3rd. Want to remind you about Berry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. And by the way, nobody's going to change my mind on that. I believe in voting day, not days. Berry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. 3 locations, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Napa location. For all the big equipment that you need for lifting and digging and pushing and carrying, all the bobcats, the trenchers, the scissor lifts, the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators. Now, they've got absolutely excellent lease programs and to buy great financing programs. So what are you waiting for? Get a hold of them today. Berry Equipment and Rental. Really nice people in Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
Hey, I heard you talking about the debate and how one-sided it is, and then I had a customer and a phone call. But one thing I was watching the other night, and Mike Huckabee had a brilliant idea. He said, when you debate, if it's an hour and a half, each candidate gets 45 minutes. And when they reach their limit, they're done, and the other person can talk. You have a back and forth. You give 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, back and forth. And let the candidates ask the questions, let the candidates answer the questions with no moderator.
Absolutely.
Just a timekeeper.
I absolutely think it's a waste of time. It's a frivolous stupidity to think that Chris Wallace or Savannah Guthrie at NBC or this one, Kristen Welker, have the gray matter between their ears to really tell me, the voter, as to what I should listen to.
Exactly. And what I heard this morning, too, is that they've done away with the foreign policy segment of the debate.
That's right.
I wonder why.
Well, golly, you don't... Now, wait a minute. Wait just a minute. You are not making a supposition that perhaps by doing away with that, China might not come up in the conversation about the laptop computer owned by Hunter Biden, are you?
Bingo.
You win.
But I'll guarantee you President Trump won't bypass that question.
It can't be. I mean, I'm sitting here, and you wouldn't believe some of the garbage emails and some of the stupid things I get called into my cell phone and everything else. People say, well, you're biased, you're unfair, and everything else. No, I am not. I am not biased. I do want to see the Trump administration have 4 more years. I think they're far superior in their thinking as to what the Biden people want, with the stupidity of Medicare for all, open borders, and just absolutely the destruction of the policies of America. So, yeah, I'm biased that way. But I'll tell you one thing, I could do a heck of a lot better as a moderator by shutting up and letting these two guys go at each other.
Exactly. Take the 2 town halls, for instance.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, right there, President Trump wasn't given a chance to answer, was always interrupted, and was asked very pointed questions and, gotcha questions. And Joe Biden was asked, well, what kind of ice cream do you like?
Yeah. Savannah Guthrie, in my opinion, I've never liked her. I think she's a low-class, grade B host on the NBC programming. But she just absolutely made a fool out of herself, asking a question and getting maybe 4 or 5 words in response and then interrupting and injecting her own thought. That is the play of a fool.
Exactly. She reminds me of a female Jim Acosta.
That's a good way to put it.
I mean, you know, it's amazing that they're doing this. And the American people, I say 90% of the American people out there have more than 2 brain cells and can see right through exactly what they're doing.
But however, in accordance with what you just said, we're talking about the third and final debate coming up this Thursday, and yet already, Doug, 31 million people have voted. This is insane.
It is insane. They should have every one of the debates earlier. They should have and answer questions. Biden needs to answer questions on what he's going to do and what road he's going.
That would be a novel approach. That's a new idea. Biden answering questions. Gee, Doug, you ought to work for a network. That's an interesting concept.
It is an interesting concept because to be knowledgeable in your vote, you need to have answers to important questions.
Holy cow, why didn't somebody think of this earlier? Why, we've wasted time.
I know it.
I got to run, Doug. I've got the weather. I got to get it on.
All righty. Hey, everybody, let's do what we can for our senior centers. Let's support them, donate to them, volunteer to them. And like I said yesterday, volunteer to do Meals on Wheels so you can see how important that is to some people, some seniors around this area.
I agree.
God bless.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it. Caller that's waiting, bear with me. I've got to get a weather on, and I'll come right back to you. I promise. I promise. Weather forecast brought to you this hour by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Do not forget that hearing affects every aspect of our lives. And the best in treatment is right there waiting for you at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. They've got the best practices and best technology to help you. All you have to do is just give them a call at 312-0957. Make an appointment today for a hearing screening. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And right now, here's the weather.
Typical weather conditions for today. Wind advisory for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. For today, we are expecting mostly sunny skies. A slight breeze out of the west-southwest at about 15 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 28 miles an hour and a high of 61. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low of 41. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. Winds will be picking up out of the southwest at about 17 miles an hour. And then, of course, wind advisory. And gusts as high as about 30 miles an hour. Partly cloudy skies for Wednesday night, low of 28. For Thursday, sunny skies, 46 and 54 Friday. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Range.
I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you. And brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And they've got a brand new office location right behind the Minidoka County Hospital across from the emergency room. You call them for an appointment, 312-0957. Caller, you have been extremely patient. Thank you. You're on the air.
They hung up.
Oh, no, they weren't as patient as I gave them credit for. Okay. Well, call back, 436-22. Must have been a Democrat. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587, please. You know, the thing that is blowing my mind on this election, along with just the incompetency of old, slow Joe, is that this guy has come out. I mean, he's come out and told everybody months ago, if I'm elected president, I'm going to raise your taxes. I mean, he's talking about raising the corporate taxes up to 28% or more, say goodbye to the United States, and talk about a downer for the stock market. Woo, how low can you go? And then raising all our taxes, estate taxes, everything else. I mean, think about it. In a time where COVID has bankrupted a lot of people, raise taxes? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Zeb, I had to pull my truck up. Hey, last night on that Savage show, he said a lot of the early voters, as a couple guys called in, and they voted early, and they voted for Biden, and now they're wishing they could change because after all this stuff has come out, and that's what these people get when they early vote.
You have summed up in less than 30 words exactly the problem with early voting. I am not an advocate of it. I don't want any mail-in voting. In special cases, I'll go along with absentee ballots, but November 3rd is Election Day. If that doesn't fix into your schedule, then stay home and don't vote because you must not be a very committed American.
Yeah, and that's what he was saying, and the caller that called said that it should be voting day, period.
Amen.
You know, and you got to make arrangements to get there. Other than they did make exceptions for like handicapped, shut-ins, people like that, and military people that are off overseas. But
I'm going to be really rude and ask you a question, and I don't mean to sound rude when I say this, but how old are you?
I'm same age as you are.
Okay, well then that's my point. You and I both remember our mother and father getting up on Election Day and making all the plans on going to the polls. Why do we have to change it today to make it so-called easier for everybody? And your point is so well taken. 31 million Americans have already voted, and many of which didn't know all the facts, and now they're going, oops.
Okay, well, I got to pull my truck up.
Hey, God bless you for your call. I mean that. Thank you very, very much. I just don't believe in it. I think we got to look at ourselves in the mirror. Come on. Go to in the bathroom or wherever you got a mirror and look at yourself and say, really, am I a committed American that really is doing what's right for my country and for my family? November 3rd is Election Day. Go to the polls. I mean, this gibberish of, oh, well, we're going to have early voting here. And then we have states like, let me get over here. I had this notice, and I'm trying to find it, that there are certain states like Pennsylvania and others that are going to extend the counting of the votes until November the 6th, 3 days later. Pennsylvania's got a rule that says they're going to allow mail-in ballots to be counted up 3 days after Election Day. That is bogus. There's another word I want to use, but I can't on the radio. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Burrell. It's nice to know you're calmed down.
No, I'm not. Go ahead quickly.
I'll tell you about this. One thing I heard on TV or seen it was in California, they had a mailbox that was for Republicans only, and suddenly it caught on fire.
Whoa.
And now they say they're going to mail out ballots to all of these people who supposedly voted. How in the heck are they going to do that?
Well, Keith, haven't you been watching the newscast? There's these self-igniting mailboxes that they've been creeping up all over the place.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I haven't heard that. That's the first one I've heard of.
I'm kidding.
These mailboxes I thought were metal.
Well, I'm kidding, because anything and everything is possible to absolutely take this election in hand and cover it up with a great big rug by the Democrats. I don't trust these people. I got to run, Keith. Thank you so much. All right, buddy. Hey, don't forget our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, serving, keyword, serving you. Don't forget they've got the best in all the tires. It is tire changing time, because we're looking at the fall and winter. We're looking at things on the road that we don't want to look at, like snow and ice and all the muck and yuck. And they've got the best of tires, all the different tread designs for your vehicle. You be sure and stop in and see them today. Don't put it it off. And the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries. Very important. Stop in and see James and Buell, Dan on Poline and Twin, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family and Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, I've got 45 seconds. Fast. Go.
Just a thought for the day. Not every productive employee is appreciated, but every appreciated employee is productive.
That is really the truth as I look back on years past when I worked for someone else. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to send them a card, even though it was 30 years ago, and I'm going to admonish them. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that.
You work for yourself, too, right there.
Yeah, I sent myself a note. Thanks, Doug. All right. Hey, we're going to take a little break and go to the news, and then we'll be back with Dan Kish and Craig Huey this next hour. Don't miss it, Zeb at the Ranch. Oh, morning. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations really serving you. Stop in and see them today. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, Sean's ready to hit the button for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at the Georgia struggle. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
I know you're getting ready for Thanksgiving already, and you say, oh my goodness, we got to clean out the house. Why, you need a dumpster. Maybe you need a dumpster in one of many sizes, and they'll drop it off, and then you fill it up, they'll come and get it. That's easy as can be with our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. You call them today, 734-6969. Want to also give a great big shout out to Nick Greenwell and all the physical therapists serving you at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And, of course, if you're recouping from an accident or a surgery and things aren't going well, hey, get a hold of them. They know all the exercises to help you get back into shape. And they've got the use of the hydrotherapy pool, the only one of its kind in the area. Call 678-1191. Make an appointment today and let them help you get back to being you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Want to also take a little time here, and I know we're, for the next 2 weeks, going to have a lot of our great political friends on the air. I want to remind you, too, about our friend, Go Vote. We, the people, have the civic obligation to choose our leadership. Be sure and vote for the candidate of your choice on November 3rd. This message paid by the re-elect District 27 Representative Fred Wood Committee, Steve Westfall, Treasurer. And one more quick word, I promise, and I want to acknowledge our friends over to Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert, Joel Heward, the manager, along with his family and staff, and they always pledge to serve you as you would want to be served, and treat your loved ones as you want your loved ones treated. They very much care about the service they provide the families and serve with the best possible support and comfort. Please remember Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. And remember, Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Wow. After all of that, I'm getting ready now to announce our next guest, and he's like an old friend, kind of like an old boot in the closet that we just love and feel comfortable with, and that's Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Zeb.
Dan, we have talked about this in the past, but you wouldn't believe the amount of people that have contacted me and they want to hear more information about electric cars and charging stations and how much it's going to cost and all that. And I'm thinking about Wickenburg, Arizona. And the reason I'm thinking about Wickenburg, Arizona is because I go down there every February and stay for about a month. And off of Main Street, about a block off of Main Street, there are approximately 6 charging stations. Now, this is a tourist capital of Arizona, one of them, and a town that has about 8,000 population expands through the winter months to well over 100,000 people. And with only 6 charging stations, how long does it take to charge a vehicle without having to wait all day and all night?
Well, I'm not familiar with that particular station, but typically, Zeb, those kind of stations are superchargers. They have they're 3-phase power, not 220 that some of us are familiar with, but actually 3-phase power. Very expensive to put in, and typically, they can recharge 80% of it. I believe the number is about 80% of a Tesla's battery over a 30-minute period when they're in that mode. Sometimes people don't like to run them in that mode because when you charge a battery very rapidly, it doesn't like it. And I think we mentioned before that what happens is that they tend to they tend to deteriorate more rapidly, and since it's the most expensive part of a car, you don't want to have to replace. It's like replacing the engine and the transmission and the the front suspension all at once. So you don't want to do that, and so you try to limit that by doing it more slowly with 220.
Okay, but this is the point I'm getting at. And then we'll take a caller. Caller, stand by.
Sure.
With these charging stations for these vehicles, and then the Biden-Harris and AOCs of the world say, well, we're all going to have all of our vehicles that are fossil-fueled. That's going to be gone. We're all going to go on electric vehicles. I mean, your heavy-duty trucks, your transportation vehicles, everything. Where in the world are you going to find enough charging stations and quick enough to keep these commodities, like if it's fruits and vegetables, etc., going to market? How are you going to keep that?
Well, you're not, Zeb. I mean, that's the whole. I mean, certainly with today's battery technology, maybe they'll come up with something, some breakthrough. But that's like waiting for fusion power, basically. It's not a sure thing, and there may be limits to it, and maybe someday we'll get there, but we aren't there yet. The problem is these politicians are pushing policies that force us into these vehicles whether we want it or not. I happen to think they're actually forcing us out of vehicles, that's really the plan going on, and we see that in urban areas around the country where they're literally, I mean, just outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland, the county that abuts the District of Columbia, they just announced a new policy of they're actually going to narrow roads and give more trails and biking, and they're not going to expand the road system because they think too many people use cars.
Oh, my.
And so they're going to, they want to push people into public transport. I mean, despite the fact that people are moving away from public transport because of COVID and because of the reality that, hey, you don't know when you sit down on a seat who sat down on it before and what was going on. And everybody's become more aware of that, so these subways and bus lines and the rest of the public transport system has been suffering a lot because all of a sudden people say, wait a minute, do I want to push that elevator button? Do I want to
sit on that seat. I don't know who was sitting on that thing before and what they had or what's intended for me. So, you know, in a nation noted for its freedoms of transport and everything else, the politicians want us all controlled, stuffed in boxes, and taken the circuitous route as opposed to the way we live our lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am totally committed to what you just said. We have a caller, Dan, and caller, quickly, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. You know, we have all of these charging stations online to be put up, but what about the trucking industry? They can't use these little piddly things that charge your battery in your car. They got to have a bigger system and everything. Now, your truck lines that are franchised, you know, to go across the United States, they will probably have their own at their terminals. But how far apart are these terminals?
Yeah.
There are just so many questions that I have with electricity. It's a wonderful thing, but gosh, if it's the best thing to do, like the trucking companies, they will go to electricity. Don't force them to do something that they don't want to do.
Well, I appreciate that call and that question because I was going to ask that about our dear friend Dan also. Thank you, caller. Dan, he brings up an excellent point. With all the trucks on the road today hauling all the commodities, the goods and services and everything, good heavens, has anybody really sat down and figured out what kind of cost this would be, how big the batteries would be, how big the charging stations would have to be? I mean, all the land that would have to be purchased to build larger stations to have all these trucks. Wow, am I off base, or have they thought about this?
No, your caller is exactly right, and so are you, Zeb. They haven't. Well, some people have begun to think about it, and just a couple of days ago, I was reading an article about its impact on the on trucking fleets and the potential to go, because here in the cities, they've Amazon and UPS and some of the other ones, all with federal subsidies, by the way, are buying electric delivery vans for urban areas. I mean, all of these here's something to remember. All of these policies are designed by people living in urban areas.
Yes.
I mean, basically the life of someone who lives in an urban area that can drive or has access to public transport or something is much, much different than the vast breadth and depth of this country. And, of course, all of that stuff is delivered to them. Now, you know, if you've got a customary route that goes a certain number of miles and you're spending a lot of your time in the elevator going up and down with your packages delivering in these urban areas, that's one thing. But when you're out in the middle of nowhere, you know, hustle and tail to try to get packages delivered to people in the goods and services they need, these systems won't work. And 80%, and this goes to your point, 80% of the trucking that is done in the United States is not done by big fleet managers. It's done by mom and pop trucking companies by themselves, many of them independent operators. And they're not going to invest in this stuff to haul goods and services across the United States. That just doesn't make any sense. They're not going to buy a more expensive means of transporting all this goods that we need, and so therein lies the problem. It's all great if you're sitting in an ivory tower in some city somewhere and saying, "Gee, this truck makes the same route every day. I see the guy, and he goes back and they refuel it at night with electricity." Never mind how much electricity that's going to take, and that's a huge amount. That's a whole other show. But that's part of the problem. They haven't thought it through. These people are living in dream world.
You know, I'm sitting here and I've got so many questions and so little time, but I think you and I are on the same page, kind of like joined at the hip on this, that I believe that this so-called green energy program with the stupidity of a bartender, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is a death knell for rural living. Would you go along with that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Zeb. Clearly. I mean, let's face it. You know, if you look at the way the country votes, in urban areas they vote red, blue. And when you look at a map, for example, of the last presidential election, I'm sure this upcoming one, what you'll see is that if you look at it as on a precinct-by-precinct basis, where people are jammed together and they're used to taking orders from their government, they pretty much support more government. And in the vast part of the country that is red, and I mean vast, I mean even states like Illinois, you've only got that blue part up in Chicago, the rest of the state is red. Those people see it a different way, and the people in the cities want to control the people in the countries, and they'd like them to come in, be forced to join them in the cities, because they know that when they get to the cities, they change it. If any of your listeners have kids that have moved to big cities, you know, in California or something like that, look at their politics. Chances are they have a different belief system than the God-fearing people who listen to your radio station.
Absolutely. Here's the program right now. We've got a caller waiting. I've got to get this ad in real quick, and then we'll be back with more with Dan Kish and the caller. Caller, stand by. Want to remind everybody, go vote November 3rd and vote yes for Amendment HJR4 and leave the number of legislative districts at 35, guaranteeing that our voices will be heard on all issues and also preserving rural representation. Paid for by Speaker of the House Representative Scott Bedke, District 27, Sarah Bedke, Treasurer. And also, I want to remind everybody about a great place to go eat, and that's Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland in Burley, and another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Don't forget, we're almost creeping up on Thanksgiving, and that means they're going to be adding all the delicious turkey dinners. It's without an EIR. Anyhow, turkey dinners to the menu, and also delicious pies, along with all the menu choices, delicious food, and great people serving you at America's Diner. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Just a comment, Zeb. Back when I was a kid, we could afford to put a tiger in the tank, but by the time they're done with us, we won't be able to find a kitten to put in there.
Excellent point. Thank you. I appreciate that. Dan, respond to the tiger that's now being a kitten.
Well, I'll stick with the tiger. Frankly, I'm with your caller. This is just it's you know, if this stuff were ready for prime time, Zeb, it'd be ready for prime time, and that's the whole issue. What you've got here is back in the day, gasoline went out and automobiles went out because Henry Ford and Rockefeller with oil figured out a way to make it so that it was affordable and people could transport. And that's the way it worked. We didn't have government people saying, gee, let's figure out how to get people from point A to point B, and we'll come up with some subsidy program that makes this all work. That's the problem. We've got too many people with their fingers in the mix here. Too many cooks in the kitchen. We got too many people that think they're smarter than everybody else. Let people come up with the inventions that made us the greatest country in the world, rather than politicians trying to stick their fingers in the mix and listening to whoever they listen to last tell their story about what's going to work.
It's just a recipe for disaster, frankly.
You know, Dan, like I said, I've got a lot of questions, and you're a blessing to us because you've got all the answers on this. But, you know, let's go back to the batteries. Let's go back to the charging stations. Let's go back to the basic family of four that are trying to get to grandma's house for Thanksgiving, and they've got to go from, let's say, Las Vegas to Bakersfield, California. It's a long, hot, dry drive, and let's assume they pull into a battery deal and it's credit card only, and poor dad's credit card is maxed out. What do they do then?
Well, not only that, Zeb, but it's probably maxed out because he's paying for the vehicle to begin with, if it's an electric deal, and he's also paying for the deployment of all these electrical charging stations that will also be included in his electric bill, because it's going to go up because the utilities want to put these. The utilities literally want to put these out there and make consumers pay for them. You know, somebody who doesn't have an electric car, his rates go up to pay for them putting in charging stations so they can sell more electricity. That's the kind of stuff that's going on too, and. You know, if we had a media in this country that did its job, they'd be reporting this stuff.
Absolutely.
But they don't. I mean, they're all in cahoots. They all live in the cities. They think the same way. They just figure it's somebody comes up with a better idea. The government can make you all do it, and we'll all wear the same color hats. I'm telling you, it's kind of scary.
You know what I think we ought to do, and I'll kick in a little money in the kitty, and I'm sure that you would too. We are going to start the Bell Kish or the Kish Bell Clydesdale rental service, because I can see where Clydesdale wagon teams are going to come back into prominence.
You know, Zeb, I think that would be great. We could promise that New York City gets all of its deliveries from now on from Clydesdales, and see how long they like that. I think within a couple of days, they'd be crying uncle.
You know, Dan, you are a fountain of information on this, and I look forward to Tuesdays because we've got to keep telling the public how basically backward in thinking this kind of green philosophy is. Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance, a dear friend of this program. God bless you, man, and I'll look forward to next Tuesday. God bless you and yours, Zeb, and just keep believing, America. All right. Thank you, Dan. There's a guy that really knows what's going on, and I salute him, Dan Kish, for being on our program every Tuesday. Thank you very much. Oh, my. We've got to pay some bills. I want to remind you about Let's Ride. Oh, yeah. Get your motor running. Get out of Dodge City and just enjoy the hills. Absolutely. And you know what? They're making plans right now for you to come on over and check out all the snowmobiles. They've got snowmobiles here. They've got snowmobiles there. They've got snowmobiles everywhere. They've got them all over the place because they know there's going to be a lot of that angel dandruff up on the hills. And don't forget, too, they've got all the accessories for you at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 2, and a great, great service department, too, at Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. Really good people, I'll tell you. By the way, over in that same area, and I'm real high on these folks, too, and that's, of course, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. It goes without saying that they are service-oriented. I mean, we know firsthand, Deanne and I, that they are dedicated and very responsive to your needs. All you need to do to find out more about life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits for you, your family, and your business, give them a call. 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. The best serving you, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Good people. And I've got one more good word that I need to get on here. And I want to talk about my friend Clark Kaufman. And I'm stuttering just a little bit because I can't find the word from my good friend Clark Kaufman. Here it is. Clark Kaufman asked for your vote to re-elect him as Idaho State Representative, District 25B. Even more, Clark wants you to get out and exercise your right to vote. Clark Kaufman has served Idaho well since 2012, serving all of Idaho. In order to logically keep our voices heard, Clark encourages you to vote yes on the constitutional amendment, changing the language to simply require the legislature to consist of 35 districts. Let's all do our part. Get out and vote. Paid for by the committee to re-elect Clark Kaufman for House Seat 25B. Debbie Kaufman, Treasurer. In just a moment, we are going to have a guest with us, and I think I'll go to the phone line right now if Sean says he's on the air. Sean, do we have our guest ready?
Sure.
I appreciate it, old buddy. We have with us this morning a gentleman that is an author and does a great job on the radio, political commentator, everything. Craig Huey, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Very good. How you doing?
Well, I'll tell you what, Craig, we're going to get into a subject that's going to probably raise my ire a little bit this morning, and it is the voting in America. I'm just going to say this, and I want to get your response. I believe in the old-fashioned way that's the best way. We get up in the morning on November 3rd, and we practice our right as an American citizen and go vote. I don't like the early voting. I don't like the mail-in balloting. I don't even like the absentee ballots. I think we should all strive to go to the polls November 3rd. How would you respond to that?
Well, Zeb, you're 100% right. Unfortunately, that's not the political reality, as most states have done what's called universal mail-in ballots. And what a mockery of our democratic republic. What a mockery of having a fair election. Because what is now happening could transform this upcoming election, and with fraudulent votes, massive voter fraud can take place. And that's the path we're on right now.
You've written a book called The Christian Voter, and I'm going to segue to that right now. Tell us about the book and tell us what the basic theme of the book is.
Well, basically, it's this. I just mentioned there's massive potential voter fraud. To be able to have an election that helps turn America around, an election that people who have who call themselves Christians, conservative Catholics, evangelical Christians, they need to get out to vote, and whether they vote by mail or they go to the poll, like we hope they will do. The problem is that in the past, too many evangelical Christians have stayed home. There's 80 million evangelical Christians, but there's a massive amount that are not registered to vote. Probably close to 15 million are not registered to vote. And out of those who are registered to vote, about half of them don't even go to the poll to vote. And in the last presidential race, 52% of those who call themselves born-again Christians did not vote. 48% voted. So Zeb, what we have is right there in Idaho, throughout the United States, you have a massive group that could transform this election. In 2016, President Trump got 81% of the evangelical vote. Nobody else ever did that. And so when I took a look at that, and I took a look at the millions of people in all the different swing states and all the different states, if the evangelicals got out to vote, you would transform city council and school board, county races, state races, Congress, Senate, governors. You would transform the presidential race. And so the evangelical vote is a key to this upcoming election. If Christians stay on the sidelines, President Trump, conservatives, libertarians,
Christian candidates who hold a more of a Christian worldview, they're not going to win. It's going to be the pro-socialist secularists who get out their base while the evangelicals stay home.
Craig, why have we allowed this problem, this naivete, this lack of responsibility to be an American citizen? Why have we allowed this to happen? Where did the problem start?
I'd say the people normally are going about their own business, and they're not paying attention that because the secularists and the pro-socialists, politics is their God. That's their life. There's no right or wrong except to win an election, to gain power. And so we have that in the secular world. In the Christian world, the Catholic Church has been passive, the evangelical church, so many pastors, out of fear of losing their tax exemption, have been silent. It used to be that the pastors were the conscience of the community.
Right.
The pastors motivated and instructed the people in their church how to vote their values. From the American Revolution, then, the churches, the pastors, were the ones who mobilized the church to stand right ground. And throughout American history, that has been the history until recent years when churches could lose their tax exemption. Now we've had a couple of generations of silence among the pastors, and it's a sad thing. And I see hope because I see things changing. I see pastors waking up and seeing what I call non-negotiables. So when I wrote this book, The Christian Voter, I wrote about 7 non-negotiables for voting for, not against your values. And I talked about how to strategically limit evil and why these non-negotiables are more important than any other issue. And so for Christians, there's certain non-negotiables like religious liberty, protecting the persecuted church, being able to be pro-life. These are some of the key issues that every person who's a conservative Catholic, who's an evangelical, born-again Christian, they got to have that as their priority before they vote their in the polling booth. They've got to be able to know where these candidates stand on those 7 key non-negotiable issues.
Craig, I want to go back because you've touched on a subject that has not made me very popular in this area or across the United States, because I have criticized pastors and church leaders for a long time of not standing up and making a commitment to help fight for social values that they should be talking about. Out of all the ministers in this area, of Southern Idaho that listen and can listen to this program, only three have called and wanted to speak out on this program, and that's disgusting.
It really is, and I think you've touched on a real big issue that as we see the foundations of American freedom crumbling, as we see the world turned upside down, what we're seeing is there's not courage from the pulpit. There's not pastors standing firm for what's right out of fear of some people in their church, out of fear of finances, out of fear of government. There's a lot of fear that should not be there, but there is. And you know, in Idaho, as well as all across the United States, we should see pastors running for office. You know, there was a pastor that back in the 1800s who looked around and said, you know, our society is becoming more corrupt. The government is corrupt. I'm not taking this any longer. There's evils like slavery that we got to get rid of. And he ran for president. And Pastor Garfield became the president of the United States.
That's right.
We've got to see the pastors looking at their fellowship and saying, hey, here's how you vote. These are the candidates that line up with our biblical values. These are the candidates who want to defend Israel. These are the candidates that want to be able to make sure that our First Amendment rights are protected. And so you can't vote for anybody other than these candidates. And so this really needs to come from the pastors.
Boy, I'm so glad I've got you on this program, Craig, and we have a caller with a comment. Caller, quickly, you're on the air.
Well, there's no question that during the Obama administration, the pastors were on the run and were afraid, and the IRS was going to come knocking on their door, and there was no question about it. So it scared them. And so now we've got into the Trump administration. Trump may have been something else before, but now he has prayer meetings every morning, they say, and he's become solidly pro-life. And I would think that the people of America, the Christians, would go out and support him, knowing that the evil on the left, which is so obvious, all it takes for evil to flourish is for good people to do nothing. I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, please, Craig, if you would.
That was well said. Let me just tell you this. I've been very close to people around the White House. There are prayer meetings. There's more prayer meetings going on in the White House, Bible studies going on in the White House, and than ever before in all different branches. You take a look at the Secretary of State. You take a look at different people who have been appointed. They're born-again Christians. Trump has invited pastors continually. He has encouraged people to watch pastors on TV. He has probably been the most pro-evangelical Christian president we've ever seen. And that's reflected in his policies. He's been the most pro-life president ever, the most pro-Israel president ever, the most pro-religious freedom president ever. And so for Christians that 81% voted for him in the past, it should be higher this time simply by what he's done versus Joe Biden, what he plans to undo. He would be the most pro-abortion president. He would be the most anti-Christian religious liberty president. He would be the most, he'd come back to the Obama anti-Israel policies. Zeb, I've been twice to the State Department Ministerial Religious Freedom. And for the first time, the State Department has been promoting the protection of religious minorities worldwide. Never before have people of faith found a friend in the White House. They do now. That would be reversed. And so when we take a look at this is not just an election. This is a battle between right and wrong, between good and evil that's going on today. And so that's why I wrote this book. I wanted every pastor, church leader, and every Christian to see how to vote for, not against the value.
You know, Craig, in our local, if you will, newspaper, which I use that term loosely, every Sunday they have an opinion page with quite a few of the op-eds from the people in our community that are so gifted with talent and brains, more so than the rest of us, and they come out and basically they're chastising the right and the left for being too vocal. I don't think we can be vocal enough. I think we've got to stand up for what this country was founded on, and that's the principles of freedom and founded upon Judeo-Christian attitudes in this country, and we're losing it, and I can't understand why people aren't outraged and fighting back.
They should be outraged, and the way to fight back, the fundamental way, is at the ballot box. And really, many of the biblical principles are on the ballot today. And so for a Christian, if a Christian says, I'm too busy to go to the polls, and I'm too busy to be able to vote, or, I don't feel well, or, I can't get this ballot into the mail, whatever their excuse is, whether it's a kid or health or whatever it might be, this election is so critical at the presidential level as well as the other candidates running for office. And I can't emphasize enough how this election is so different because of the pandemic, and where you've got people mobilizing, going door to door, getting out the vote based upon knowing who's going to vote. In other words, knowing who Biden knows who his friends are, who's going to vote for him. The Democrats know who to go door to door to, and make sure that vote is done, and the Christians sit around and do nothing. That is why the potential of losing is there. But my hope is it's going to be an absolute tsunami of evangelical born-again Christians and conservative Catholics saying, enough is enough. I'm seeing society collapse around us. I'm seeing riots. I'm seeing the potential of more churches being closed. People are being arrested. I'm seeing things that should not be happening. I've got to do my part in strategically limiting the evil that's going on around me.
Absolutely. You know, Craig, what you said just a minute ago even makes me madder. Not at you or your comments, but it makes me madder over the simplistic and ease that the government is trying to make for voters. 31 million Americans, 31 million have already voted, and we haven't even had the final debate for the presidency this Thursday night. To me, that's total incompetency.
It's all by design, because it's part of church states that allow ballot harvesting and being able to, some people pick up 10, 20, 50, 100, 500 ballots and take it to the polls. It's part of the idea that if I can't ballot harvest, I can keep knocking on doors until I get that person to get to the poll, so I can do the early poll voting. The mail-in ballots, I can pick up ballots. So much fraud going on. In California, for example, 355,000 ballots were mailed to people who had moved or who had died, or kids who had left, people who no longer lived in that house. Apartments have ballots sitting there. People pick those up, fill them out, send them in. And so many states, I'm not sure if it's this way in Idaho, but I bet it is, people, when they register, when they get their driver's license, the Department of Motor Vehicles automatically registers people to vote. Zeb, I have an ad agency, and one of my copywriters, I asked her to go ahead and register to vote her dog. She went online, she registered to vote her dog, which is not legal, and at the office address, which is not legal. She could do that in 5 minutes. And so I'm telling you that the integrity of this election is at stake. We have to have massive reform of how we're doing this. And unfortunately, those who want to transform our culture and our politics into a socialist, secular worldview, they're pushing hard not to have an accountable, reliable election. They are using the system and to maximize their vote.
Absolutely. I honestly wish I did not have a clock in front of me and I could just say we'll go on, but I have to adhere to the time constraints. Craig, quickly tell my listeners where they can find a copy of your book called The Christian Voter.
Right. So they can get The Christian Voter, 7 non-negotiables for voting for and not against your values. You can get it at Amazon, so it'd be very easy, just The Christian Voter, 7 non-negotiables for voting for and not against your values. And if somebody would like a autographed copy, they could go to ChristianVoterBook.com. ChristianVoterBook.com.
Got you covered. Craig, you got to make one promise. I've enjoyed having you on the program. You got to consent to come back in the future.
Zeb, I'd love to.
All right, sir. God bless you, sir, and thank you for all that you did this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, sir. I'm going to have him back. Author, political commentator, and that's, of course, Craig Huey, and he tells it like it is, and I really do appreciate his comments on our program this morning. I will have him back. Right now, it's time for the weather, and the weather brought to you this hour by the professionals. Who am I talking about? Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, that provide accounting services to the entirety of the Mini-Cassia area and beyond, and they have for over 50 years. That's right, the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, retirement planning. The list goes on and on. They are there to serve you. They are the professionals with offices in Burley and Rupert. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Typical weather conditions for today. Wind advisory for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. For today, we are expecting mostly sunny skies. A slight breeze out of the west-southwest at about 15 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 28 miles an hour and a high of 61. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low of 41. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. Winds will be picking up out of the southwest at about 17 miles an hour. And then, of course, wind advisory. And gusts as high as about 30 miles an hour. Partly cloudy skies for Wednesday night, low of 28. For Thursday, sunny skies, 46 and 54 Friday. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
And I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you very much. Always a good job from the Department of the Weather. Gina Jameson, thank you very much. Our weather brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And I urge you to get a hold of them today, and they can help people starting a business or maybe changing to a corporation, or if you want to expand your business, you've got questions, they've got answers. The professionals. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. I've got time for a couple of calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I do need to get this in real quick, and that's, of course, November 3rd, District 24A needs Paul Thompson in the Idaho House of Representatives. Paul knows we need values established by God, fiscal responsibility, and all life matters. The right to protect ourselves and guaranteed freedom to worship and speak. A strong state education system and patients are in charge, not politicians. And above all, our Constitution is never second to anyone. Vote Paul Thompson, District 24A, paid for by Paul Thompson for Idaho, Issy Gibbs, Treasurer. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Zeb, if everybody that voted for Trump in 16 is going to vote for him again, and I'd pretty much say that was a 99% certainty. And then we know all across this nation, whether or not it's Hawaii, California, there are, people having boat rallies, parades, car rallies for Trump. In California, there are signs all over the country. Florida. Now, I don't know about New York and Massachusetts. I haven't heard about that. Ohio, Pennsylvania, swing states, and all these people, all this, evidence out there that people are saying, well, we don't care whether or not you like us or not. We're voting for Trump. And you say to yourself, well, if that's the case, then the left has got to, all the people voted for him in 16 are going to vote for him again. All the new people that are going to vote for him. So what is going to happen? Is the left going to have a turnout so massive that they're going to overwhelm that? And I just can't imagine how that could be.
Well, Randy, let me throw this at you. I don't know if you heard about this or not, but we've already seen a case where the Supreme Court, without having that ninth chair filled, is deadlocked. Let me tell you what happened. The Supreme Court deadlocked on Monday, yesterday, declining to block a Pennsylvania rule that allows mail-in ballots to be counted up to 3 days after the election day, whether or not, they are postmarked by Election Day. So there's all the more reason we need to have that seat filled, all the more reason Amy Coney Barrett needs to be in that seat, and we're seeing what could happen if the presidential election is a contested election.
Oh, no doubt about it. Roberts, he is an absolute, you're like I say, you're serious. And so hopefully she'll be able to neutralize that, whatever he is.
I agree.
So, yeah.
I agree. Right. Randy?
He's going to be confirmed, and I'm thinking that if enough, I guarantee you, the enthusiasm for Trump is evident across this nation, and I think there's going to be people that know that, like evangelical Christians, Trump has proven that he has become a Christian, and so, I can't imagine how we take it for granted.
I appreciate your remarks always, Randy. Thank you very much. God bless you, man. Have a great day. Thank you. Want to remind everybody about Patterson's Electronics. Oh, these are good people. And I'm talking about Curtis and Lorena. Patterson's Electronics at 421 East Main in Burley. Now, you know they've got all the home theater systems. You know they've got video surveillance cameras. You know they've got the car stereos and speakers. You know they've got all the complete sound systems. You know that they've got a phenomenal selection of television sets, Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs, and they've also incorporated dehydrated food to be sold at their location. You better get in and check it out. They're open Monday through Saturday 9 to 6. I'm talking about Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. The number to call, 678-6997. Well, with that being said, in this next hour, of course, we've got the one, the only, Dr. History coming into the studio in a few minutes. And then at 10:30 this morning, you want to be sure and listen to the attorney for Pacific Legal Foundation. Going to be talking about a case down in Texas to where a person had a MAGA hat on, the Make America Great Again, and all heck broke loose. So that's going to be coming on at 10:30 this morning. Zeb at the Ranch, we'll turn it back to Sean and be back in 7 minutes. Oh boy, here we go. We were caught visiting again, as is customary on this show, Dr. History and myself, and he'll be coming up in just a moment. I want to remind everybody about our major sponsor. I'm going to cough, stand by. And, of course, that's your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best in tires. You stop in and see them today. Along with Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Want to remind everybody, too, about 7K Metals. You can help yourself, literally help yourself build your financial security and future through silver purchases. Silver keeps going up. You can create your own security bank, and the silver comes right to your home. How do you find out more about 7K Metals? Well, you call my friends Lon Hardy at 312-8699 or Sharon at 430-3259, and they will tell you all about a great saving opportunity for you and a valued treasure for your loved ones in the future. 7K Metals. Check it out today. Call Lon and Sharon, and they will help you. Want to remind you also about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More with their big harvest sale. No money down, no interest, up to 48 months on approved credit. And they've got Simmons Beauty Rest mattresses 50% off. Hey, close your eyes and sleep. They've got all the furniture, mattresses, dining sets, motion furniture, bedroom sets, everything 40% off. Well, I would jump in the car right now and head for 459 Overland in Burley and talk to the people that know all about furniture, all about mattresses, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Jeff and the crew at 459 Overland in Burley. Well, it's Tuesday, and the good Lord above only knows where this man's going to go this week. Are we going to be in a mine shaft? Are we going to get shot off a stagecoach? Or are we going to be chasing what? I don't know.
You're going to find out.
Okay, go ahead.
So, but first, a few listeners. Mm-hmm. I want to thank Jeff, who suggested that I do a story on Bass Reeves. Matt, who actually is a relative of Jim Bridger.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Where from?
He's, I'm not sure where he lives now, but his family thinks they're related to Jim Bridger.
Really?
Yeah. And then Bob, he suggested we do a show on guns, which I've been working on. And then Lynn in Germany, you make fun of me, Zeb, because
I have never.
Because.
Well, maybe once in a while.
You give me a hard time when I say dang.
Yeah.
Instead of some other words.
Yeah.
Well, Lynn in Germany found that the word dang is used a lot in the southern states. So there you have it.
Well, go dang it.
Yes. Now, last week I got a phone call from Ray Bagby.
Super guy.
And I went out there and he gave me this book, of which I'm going to take a story out of today.
Throw down the box.
Treasure Tales from Gilmer and Salisbury, the Western Stagecoach King. And
Did you ever meet a guy that knows more about the Old West than stagecoaches? That guy is sharp.
You have got to go out to his place, Zeb, sometime. He's got a hearse that he built from the ground up. It's beautiful. The woodwork.
I just hope he doesn't make me use it.
Yeah, and he built a stagecoach that is immaculate.
Yeah, it is. I got a picture right here on my desk.
Anyway, so this story is for Ray and his partner, Richard.
Yes.
And I found some things in this book that I had never heard before about the City of Rocks.
Oh, really?
Now, I've only known of about 2 robberies that took place in the City of Rocks. But going through this, there's more. And so I'm going to talk about some of those as much time as we have. So, for our listeners out there, the City of Rocks is located in Cassia County, just west of the little town of Almo, Idaho. So if you look on a map, it's right on the middle of southern Idaho, right down south of the Snake River. But, it was a landmark well known to the earliest frontiersmen, from the fur trappers of the Hudson's Bay Company to the American mountain men. It was kind of the dividing point on the California and the Oregon trails, as they decided whether to go to Oregon or go on the California trail.
So, can I ask a question here?
Sure.
The trail and or road that goes out of Elmo and goes up to and through the City of Rocks, is that the original
That's the
trail?
road. Yes, it is, yes.
And it goes down through Oakley?
No.
Oh.
No. The California Trail continues.
Isn't there a cutoff road, though?
There is. That'll take you over to Oakley. But if you continue on the California Trail, you keep going south. You don't go through Oakley on the California Trail.
I got to get my directions over by Lind?
Yeah, sort of. Kind of that direction.
Sort of, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, the City of Rocks was also well known to the early explorers and settlers as the place where the Indians held their annual sun dance, which was actually a religious festival which lasted for 3 days and night. And near the northeast section of the City of Rocks formation, there is a well-worn circle where this secret rite was held.
Oh.
Now, I have never seen it, but I'm going to see if I can find that. But anyway, it was sometimes shown on early maps as Rock City or Circle City and Pyramid City, but the name city is kind of a misnomer because there really is no city there. I mean, the City of Rocks was a place avoided by white men until the Fort Hall Wagon Road was built across it. And of course, with the discovery of gold at the Boise Basin, John Haley built a stage road to Salt Lake City. And at first, a lot of the Gilmer and Salisbury's stagecoach stations were really just places rather than real habitations. They were just a spot, and at best offering passengers the comfort of a one-room log cabin and at times only a dugout. And home stations were few and far between when the road was first put into use, their main home stations being at the City of Rocks and King Hill. But if a traveler wasn't too particular, he might find some beans and bacon or biscuits and salt pork at Tom Oakley's Ranch or at Clark's Ferry. Now, here's a quote from Mark Twain in his book called Roughing It. Here's what he described about a frontier stage station. Quote, The roof was so low you could rest your elbows on its eaves, and you had to bend over to get in the door. For a window, there was a square hole, but there was no glass in it. There was no floor, just hard-packed earth. There were no shelves, cupboards, or closets, and no stove, but only a fireplace. There were no chairs, nor had there ever been any, but they were represented by a pine bench and 2 empty candle boxes. The table was a greasy board on stilts. The tablecloth and napkins hadn't arrived yet, nor were they expected to. Outside the door, there was a tin wash basin on the ground. Near it was a pail of water and a piece of yellow soap. And from the eaves hung the remains of a blue woolen shirt, but it was the station keeper's private towel, which no one else could use. In one corner...
Sounds like they stayed at a very cheap hotel.
In a corner of the shack stood an open sack of flour, and leaning against it, a little bag of salt and a side of bacon. We gave up on the breakfast, but had to pay $1 each anyway.
You know, what about the people that traveled during those days? I mean, eating that kind of food might make them sick, and they might end up with all kinds of problems.
You know, I would almost bet that there's some people that just took their own beef jerky or pemmican or something to eat on the way.
Pretty hard to wheel a 6-horse stage into a Wendy's.
Yeah. But anyway, there's probably no place in the West where more lost stagecoach loot is alleged to be hidden than the City of Rocks.
Really?
Yeah. And I did not know this until, so I appreciate Ray giving this book. Now, one of the largest outlaw caches hidden at the City of Rocks resulted from a robbery at the Gilmer and Salisbury stage on June 18th, 1876.
Wow.
Joe Tuttle was the driver. He was carrying a treasure box heavy with refined gold from the mills at Boise Basin. So he was coming from Boise this direction.
Okay, the other way. So
he was headed to Utah.
Where would they go through the hills up here?
Well, they would go out past Oakley and through the City of Rocks, out that direction.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, his stage was robbed. Actually, a little farther. I didn't go far enough. His stage was robbed near the head of Raft River, and the headwaters of the Raft River are actually in Utah, and there are 2 narrows. The stage was robbed at what they called the lower narrows. Now, the treasure box was so heavy it couldn't be lifted by one man, but had to be dumped over the side of the coach. There was no gunfire, nor were any of the passengers robbed. When the box was dropped to the ground, Tuttle was allowed to continue. So he continued on to Stravell. Do you know where Stravell is?
Yeah, I do.
So for our listeners, Stravell is between the little town of Malta and Snowville.
Right.
About halfway, and there's really nothing there anymore.
Just look for the high-rise hotels.
Yes, and there is actually an old hotel out there.
There is, yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, that was the nearest place where a posse could be organized. Well, 8 men rode back to the holdup site and found where a pack animal had been hidden behind some rocks. Tracks revealed that 2 trips had been required to move the heavy treasure deep into the City of Rocks. But the trail was lost on the rocky ground and the deep sand. Now, reports soon circulated that the gold taken was valued at, get this, $144,000.
That was back in
gold.
1876.
Yeah, so
what
at
would
least
that
10
be like
times
today?
I was going to check that, but at least 10 times, 10 times that,
Wow.
don't you think?
Yeah.
But anyway, the amount had been insured by Wells Fargo, and they paid by the insurance company. And why the treasure coach was not better protected? You know, why didn't they send some guards?
There was just a driver?
Yeah, just the driver and maybe some passengers. Yeah. So, you know, if you were sending that much, wouldn't you try to have an escort?
I'd have at least a shotgun guard.
Yeah, and maybe they did have a shotgun, but it doesn't mention it.
Yeah.
Well, several weeks after the robbery, suspicion fell on a guy by the name of Jim Looney, a freighter and sometimes petty crook. Upon his arrest, it was discovered that Looney had several gold pocket watches with other people's names inscribed on them, as well as 2 tobacco tins filled with gold dust that he could not account for.
I see.
The watches were traced to other stagecoach robberies, so Looney was sent to prison, all the time denying any knowledge of the robbery at the Raft River Narrows. Now, Looney was sick. He wasn't feeling good before he was arrested, and he died in prison not long after he was put in prison.
Now, was that in Boise? Sent to Boise?
It doesn't say where he went to prison.
I see.
But the search for the missing gold didn't end with Looney's death, because shortly afterwards, a suspicious character was observed prowling around the rocks where the posse had lost Looney's trail over in the City of Rocks. Well, they found out that the stranger was Looney's brother, and that he had a letter written by Looney, obviously smuggled out of prison.
Really?
So he was looking, okay? Now, the letter indicated that Looney knew he was dying and wanted his brother to get the treasure. Well, in the letter, he said that the gold was cached in a place where the names, quote, L.L. Day and H.P. Lowell, 1847, were cut into a huge rock. So pioneers, you know, a lot of them would write their names. And so those two names were cut into a big rock. Now, the instructions directed Looney's brother to, quote, follow straight north from the names to the mouth of a wind-worn cave, where the gold would be found buried under several feet of sand. Okay? No time was lost starting the search, but the described names were never found. He couldn't find those names. Okay?
Really?
So anyway, others actually looked for it as well. And strangely, during the search of a wind-worn cave that was found, one of them, evidently there's a number of these wind-worn caves
up there,
up in that area.
Have you been there and seen some of that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've hiked around that whole area and camped in there. And,
really?
Yeah. But in one of those caves was found an ancient-looking copper kettle half full of old gold coins. The coins dated back long before the holdup of the stage. In another shallow cave, a skeleton, an old flintlock rifle, and several rusted beaver traps were discovered. And this only kind of added to the mystery of the City of Rocks.
So did they ever find out who the guy was that
died?
Yeah.
No, the skeleton, no. So evidently, with this old copper pot full of gold coins, that makes me think Spanish gold or something, but who knows? Anyway, now here we go a couple of years later. During the early summer of 1878, a Gilmer and Salisbury stage was on its way from Boise to Kelton, and it was robbed just east of the Goose Creek relay station. Two bandits took a treasure box containing $90,000 in gold.
Wow.
Now, this was all in bullion bars being shipped from the mines at Boise Basin. So, have you ever lifted a bullion bar, Zeb?
They're not light.
No. I have lifted.
You can grab one like this and end up on your knees.
Yeah, they are heavy.
They're heavy.
So, anyway, I was going to, it was from the mines. Anyway, the stage driver turned his stage around after the robbery and returned to Tom Oakley's ranch, which is over in Oakley, where several cowboys were pressed into posse duty. The trail of the two bandits led into the City of Rocks, and the tracks were lost again on the soft, sandy ground, and the posse split up. Okay. Two of Oakley's cowboys came upon the outlaws unexpectedly in an out-of-the-way place near what some now call Treasure Rock.
Really?
A gunfight erupted, and one of the outlaws was killed, the other being captured and was taken back to Oakley's ranch. Now, an attempt was made to backtrack the outlaws from where they were surprised back to the holdup location, but the hard rock, the lava, just hid their trail too well. They really could not find.
So there was two cowboys that went out and caught the other two guys.
Right, exactly. One was killed, and the other one they captured and took back to Oakley. Well, so the man that was captured, he denied being involved in the stagecoach robbery, but a mask cut from a flour sack and an empty Wells Fargo money bag found in his saddlebags was enough evidence to convict him. He was sentenced to the Idaho Penitentiary for life, and while in prison, he finally figured, I'm never going to be released, and so he started talking to one of his cellmates that the stagecoach loot was buried in the center of 5 cedar trees growing in the shape of a heart between Treasure Rock and Twin Sisters Rock. Now, when his cellmate had served his time and was released, he tried to find the gold, obviously the treasure. He finally located the formation the outlaw had called Twin Sisters Rock, which we all know. That's a very obvious one. You've been there, Zeb, so the Twin Sisters. But he had no idea which of the other hundreds of rocks the outlaw had called Treasure Rock. So and I really don't know that there's one up there that is. There may be one that's called Treasure Rock, but it may not be the same one that this outlaw had mentioned. So
if there was and you knew of it, you wouldn't be here now.
No, you and I would be sitting on a beach somewhere warm. Yeah. So all we got to do is find Treasure Rock and 5 cedar trees growing in the shape of a heart.
No, that should. Well, the cedar trees. There's quite a few of those.
Zeb, there's been a few fires go through the city of Rock.
That's true, too.
Yeah. Now, some say the fruits of 2 separate robberies are also hidden in the city of Rocks. Both holdups occurred north of Kelton, which Kelton was, on the way from Boise over to Utah.
Right.
So that was where the train ended, right over there. But anyway, the outlaws making their getaway into the twisted lava rock of the city of Rocks on November 18th, 1879. A guy named Bill Mays and W.H. Overholtz robbed a Gilmer and Salisbury stage along the Kelton Road, taking an undisclosed amount of bullion from the treasure box, and they fled into the mysterious maze of the city of Rocks. They played hide and seek with a posse until the first week in December, when they were surrounded in a box canyon. Both were captured and entered the Idaho Territorial Prison on January 22nd, 1880. Both were transferred to a federal prison at Albany, New York in June of 1881.
How much of that trail, if you will, let's say from Salt Lake all the way over here to Kelton, etc., how much is still there?
I've been to Kelton, and there's really nothing there.
I see.
There's just there's nothing there really to see hardly at all.
I know where there's one stage station that's in Crumbles, but do you know where there's others?
Well, there used to be one at the City of Rocks, and if you go over there, you can still kind of see the outline of the City of Rocks stage station. But when I was a kid, younger, you could actually see the log.
Did vandals go up and tear them apart?
I just think weather and decay. Yeah,
I see.
Yeah. So anyway, continuing with that robbery, on the 3rd of January, 1881, the Kelton stage was robbed by Charlie Chambers, and like the other 2 guys, Mays and Overholtz, he tried to hide in the city of Rocks, and like them, he was captured and sent to prison. Now, apparently, Chambers was a pretty tough guy, because he escaped from prison on July 6, 1882, was recaptured, and escaped again on March 22nd, 1883.
Who locked the door?
That's a good question. He fled to a place called Benicia, California.
How do you spell it?
Benicia.
Never heard of that.
I haven't either. Where on August 1st, he shot 2 city policemen who attempted to arrest him. Chambers was injured during the fight, captured, and entered the California State Prison on November 1st, 1883, and he served a term of 20 years, and there's no reason to believe that any of these robbers, Chambers, Mays, or Overholtz, ever returned to Idaho. So it's pretty safe to say that wherever they hid the treasure in the city of Rocks, it's still there.
Still there.
Yeah. So again, Zeb, I had never heard of more robberies, and I'm going to continue this because there's some more that I haven't gotten to in the city of Rocks. But you can see this book that I really appreciate Ray Bagby getting this to me, and again, what an amazing man.
He is such a nice guy, and
he gave me a tour.
So knowledgeable.
He gave me a tour through his buildings, and he showed me where he builds the wagon wheels. And that is, I don't know if you've ever wondered about that, but they take this wood, and I think it's about 2 inches thick by maybe 3 inches wide, something like that. They put it into a long pipe, and they steam it for, I want to say, about 4 hours. Then they pull that wooden piece out, and they lay it on a flat piece of bendable metal, like heavy tin, and on each end of the tin there's a hook. And they put a chain on each end of that hook, and then they slowly bring the ends together up against a form that is perfectly round. So they bring that up slowly, and it forms the half circle of a wagon wheel.
Wow.
Then they do it again. Then they put the 2 halves together, and then they put the metal rim over the wood.
I was going to say, wow.
So it's quite a process.
I wonder, did you ever stop and think in history, whether it's back in Egyptian times or in the Wild West, Whose mind came up with these ideas to do this?
Exactly. And Ray has a huge old-fashioned lathe that he runs, and he builds his own wagon wheels.
He's one sharp cookie.
And the hearse that he built is just magnificent, just perfectly perfect joints in the wood, and it's black.
You know what we ought to do sometime is not just have a half hour, but invite Ray to come here with you on the air.
Oh yeah, Ray.
Wouldn't that be something?
He is so knowledgeable.
Yeah. Anyway. That was excellent. You had my complete attention through that whole thing.
Well, he's got a bunch of stories in this book, and I'm going to be pulling stories out of that for a while.
You outdid yourself.
Thank you.
And Ray Bagby, thank you very much. I need to tell everybody this: vote November 3rd, and be sure to vote yes for the levy increase for the Rock Creek Fire Department and their district. They are always there to serve us. Now let's help them. Vote yes for the Rock Creek Fire District levy, paid for by Rock Creek Firefighters Association. And real quick, I've got to turn the page here. I'm going to get over to the right page. And before Dr. History leaves, I need to talk to him for a quick moment and remind everybody about our friend Clark Kaufman. Clark Kaufman asked for your vote to re-elect him as Idaho State Representative, District Seat 25B. Even more, Clark wants you to get out and exercise your right to vote. Clark Kaufman has served Idaho very well since 2012, serving all of Idaho. Now, in order to logically keep our voices heard, Clark encourages you to vote yes on the constitutional amendment, changing the language to simply require the legislature to consist of 35 districts. Let's all do our part. Get out and vote. Paid for by the committee to re-elect Clark Kaufman for House Seat 25B, Debbie Kaufman, Treasurer. And with that, we're going to send it back over to our main studio. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Well, thank you very much and welcome back. Outstanding show, half hour previous with Dr. History. Always very interesting. Don't forget, go vote November 3rd and vote yes for Amendment HJR4 and leave the number of legislative districts at 35, guaranteeing that our voices will be heard on all issues and also preserving rural representation. Paid for by Speaker of the House Representative Scott Bedke of District 27, Sarah Bedke, Treasurer. I am really looking forward to this next interview because when I read the cheat sheet on this, the info sheet, it kind of made me mad up front, but I can't wait to talk to Pacific Legal Foundation attorney Aaron Wilcox. Good morning, Aaron. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. And tell us a little bit about yourself. I understand that you're from down in the Austin, Texas area. Is that right?
Yes, I am, right in the heart of Texas.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got a lot of friends down in that neck of the woods, and when I was announcing rodeos all over the United States, it was always a treat to go down to Texas. You folks are really hospitality-minded, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Aaron, tell us a little about, when I read this story about if you live in Texas and go to the polls, you might not want to wear a MAGA hat, a Make America Great Again hat. What happened down there?
Well, it turns out there is actually a whole list of things that you might not want to wear when you go to vote in Texas. Texas has got a polling place dress code in place. And if you violate it, you could be looking at a misdemeanor and arrest for just what you're wearing inside the polling place. And I'm not talking about causing any trouble or causing any scenes. Just the hat or the T-shirt that you have on when you go to vote in Texas could get you in a lot of trouble because of Texas law.
Well, wait a minute. Let's back up a little bit, Aaron. How did this law get passed that is so discriminatory against a person's wearing what they want to wear and the First Amendment?
Well, that is a great question. And the basis seems to be that a lot of states have laws that try to keep, that protect the calm environment inside a polling place. Nobody wants someone running up to you while you're trying to cast your ballot and screaming at you with a megaphone to vote for so-and-so. But Texas and a lot of other states have just gone too far. So Texas's law prohibits you from wearing anything that represents a candidate or a party or a ballot measure that not only is currently on the ballot, but has ever been on the ballot in the past, ever. I mean, a Reagan Bush 84 shirt could be banned in Texas, as well as anything that might be on the ballot in the future. And my organization, Pacific Legal Foundation, we actually won a Supreme Court case 2 years ago. The highest court in the country told the state of Minnesota in that case that you can't have laws like this, that you can't have these broad, vague laws that are enforced by individual poll workers because they stomp on people's First Amendment rights. Voters need to know what's okay to wear to the polling place. And if you have a law like this that just bans anything and everything, then people's First Amendment rights are violated, and that's not okay. Unfortunately, Texas didn't listen. They didn't get the message. And so we are having to sue them, again, on behalf of a Houston voter in order to get that message that your First Amendment rights do not stop when you walk into the polling place.
I'm sitting here wondering what other states have tried this or are thinking about doing this, because I've heard that there are other states that are saying you can't advertise for a political candidate or some amendment, etc. Do you know of any other states that are going through this?
There are a few other states, Colorado, Florida, California, naturally, all have got pretty strict rules about this. But interestingly, some states don't have any rules at all. Maine doesn't care what you wear to a polling place. Rhode Island doesn't care what you wear into a polling place. And they don't seem to have any trouble at all. So it kind of makes you wonder, why are we having these laws that are so strict and are trampling on people's First Amendment rights when other states have tried it and don't seem to be having, riots in the polling place or any of these problems that these more strict states are worried about.
What is the thinking of the left on this by saying, oh no, you can't wear that MAGA hat, oh no, you can't wear that T-shirt with the elephant on it that shows GOP? What are they afraid of? Are they afraid that people can read?
In some cases, you don't even have to read if it's just a picture of an elephant. So, it's really hard to fathom, because what voter, especially in this day and age where people are really informed and are very, politicized and know who they're going to vote for, how is seeing a MAGA hat or an elephant or a donkey or a Black Lives Matter T-shirt, for that matter, who is going to see that T-shirt when they walk into a polling place and decide, oh, I've completely changed my mind.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for a completely different person.
Yeah,
I think that's it's really insulting to voters, if anything.
Well, it is insulting.
It's unreasonable, and I just think it makes no sense.
It is insulting, and it could be carried so much further. Let's say that commercialization on the shirt was for so-and-so's welding shop, and somebody took offense at that as a commercial. I mean, where do you draw the line and stop this foolishness?
Exactly, and that's a big problem. Once you have these vague laws that are not defined to start with, it's just a slippery slope. And we're seeing that now. Many states, including Idaho, including Texas, are requiring voters to wear masks into the polling place. And, you see a lot of people with masks from different companies or different organizations. And, what's to say that someone is a member of the NRA and walks in with an NRA mask in a polling election worker could take offense to that, because, in Texas that could be considered political. And so it's just such a slippery slope, and you can't have voters' First Amendment rights. I mean, those are some of the most important rights we have. That cannot depend on the whim of whoever is working at the polling place that day.
The one part of this story that was fascinating to me, and if it was my wife, I absolutely would want to poke somebody in the nose. Tell us a little bit about a Houston poll worker ordered a firefighter's wife to turn her Houston firefighter's T-shirt inside out before she could enter.
Yes, this is our client in this lawsuit. Her name is Jillian Ostrowich, and she's mom in Houston. She's got 2 adorable little boys, and she is the proud wife of a Houston firefighter, her husband Mark. And Mark brought home some union shirts from the Union Hall that have Houston firefighters and the union logo on them. And they wore them to vote. And those shirts did not say anything about voting. They didn't say anything about a candidate or a party or anything. But yet when they stood in line and got to the front of the line, the poll workers told Jillian and Mark that they had to turn their shirts inside out or they couldn't vote, just because there was a ballot proposition that day about firefighter pay. So because their T-shirt said firefighter on it, Jillian had to go and turn to the bathroom, get out of line, turn that shirt around, or she wasn't going to be allowed to vote. And, she's not a rule breaker. She didn't go in there to cause a problem, and she was completely mortified that she got called out of line, had to go to the back of the line and wait again, all for a shirt that was not political in any way. And that's just a horrible example of her First Amendment rights being violated by this Texas law.
And Aaron, what I'm sitting here thinking of, and maybe I'm going off the rails here a little bit, but when you leave your home on next Tuesday, voting day, November 3rd, pardon me, and you're going to be subjected to go vote for so-and-so on the television set, or go vote for so-and-so on the radio, or your newspapers that morning are going to say, be sure and go vote for so-and-so. You're subjected to this all the time, and do you mean to tell me a person's T-shirt or cap going out into the public all of a sudden, like you said earlier, is going to sway the voters' attention and vote? That's ridiculous.
I know. I can't even begin to understand it. And I'll do you one better. In both of our states, you can be subjected to that up to 100 feet in front of the polling place door. You have to walk past people waving signs and yelling and telling you who to vote for almost until you walk into the polling place. And yet somehow that T-shirt or that hat is what's going to, really affect you when you get in there. I mean, it's just nonsense. And yet that is the position the state of Texas is taking on this law.
Well, I'm going to test this a little bit. I'm one of these kind of guys that I like to test the water. I've got a Make America Great Again cap, and I'm going to wear that to my polling place on November 3rd and see what happens.
Well, I cannot advise you to do that, but that will certainly be an interesting experiment.
I'm going to do it. Listen, is this something that's being contrived by the left to have more control over people? Who's really trying to push this, thou shalt not wear that hat?
Well, what's interesting is it's the state of Texas is defending the law in this case, as well as Harris County, which is where Houston is located. And it's an interesting, as you know, Texas is quite Republican and Harris County is quite Democrat. So it's kind of an odd combination, but they are all defending this law. So it's just really hard to understand why anybody wants to defend a crazy law like this that clearly is violating people's free speech rights for no good reason.
Well, I'll tell you what, I really appreciate your being on the program this morning. Aaron Wilcox with the Pacific Legal Foundation, outstanding organization. Aaron, if they want to follow this story and others, how do people do that? Tell us.
Please visit our website, pacificlegal.org. We've got all the information there on this case and a lot of other interesting cases to read.
Aaron Wilcox, Hook 'em Horns, Texas. There you go, Aaron. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Nice lady right there. Can you imagine? I don't ever like to be told what I can and can't do. You can ask me, but don't tell me. And I'm going to try that. And on Tuesday, November 3rd, when I go to the voting polls, I'm going to wear that Make America Great Again cap and see who or what is going to happen. I'm going to test the water a little bit. We better test the water with, of course, the weather. And the weather is brought to you. Wait a minute. Back up, Zeb. Roll the tape back a little bit. Before we do the weather, I want to tell you about a great place place to go eat. Oh my. Yes, I'm talking about Edith's Cafe. Yes, I'm talking about the Edith's Cafe at 144 East Highway 81, right across from the golf course in Burley. Yes, I'm talking about anything from sandwiches to steaks, absolutely phenomenal. Yes, I'm talking about the Edith's Cafe that does catering. Yes, I'm talking about the Edith's Cafe that's open Tuesday through Thursday, 11 to 8, and Friday and Saturday, 11 to 9. And I'm talking about the Edith's Cafe that you can call, like I said, for catering and takeouts, 878-2248. That's the one, Edith's Cafe, 144 East Highway 81 in Burley. Excuse me, I'm sorry for the throat. Wonderful allergies this time of the year. Right now, it's time for the weather. And our weather is brought to you by Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Hello, Don Scarrow and the crew. And the number to call, 324-7657. Or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Oh, we're getting closer and closer. Turkey time, ham time, marinated pork ribs, all the tri-tips, all the different flavored bacons, and the breakfast sausages. Oh, you're going to love it. All of this and so much more from Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. You get a hold of them today. That telephone number again, 324-7657. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Typical weather conditions for today. Wind advisory for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. For today, we are expecting mostly sunny skies. A slight breeze out of the west-southwest at about 15 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 28 miles an hour and a high of 61. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low of 41. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. Winds will be picking up out of the southwest at about 17 miles an hour. And then, of course, wind advisory. And gusts as high as about 30 miles an hour. Partly cloudy skies for Wednesday night, low of 28. For Thursday, sunny skies, 46 and 54 Friday. That's a look at your weather for Zeb Durant.
Gina, thank you very much. And, of course, the weather brought to all of us by Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Again, that telephone number, 324-7657. At Scarrow's Meats, they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. I was absolutely shocked last night. I have heard about this in the past, but I didn't know that much about it. I didn't know what kind of a clandestine organization this would be. I don't have a lot of time left in this program this morning, but I want to tell you that I was shocked when I heard on Tucker Carlson last night that if Biden wins the election, the Biden-Harris team, there may be a commission put into effect in this country called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. What is it? Well, first of all, it's a very scary scenario, and it's been tried in other countries. And basically, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission could have you or I or people on the right indicted and basically possibly sentenced to a jail term unless we apologize for our thinking of conservatism and abide by their rules. I'm not making this up. I am not making this up. And in this article that I found, thanks to Deanne, the Democratic Party's agenda, they want to see all of their opponents during this presidency of Donald Trump locked up in jail, all in the name of upholding the law and protecting human rights. As I said, there's a lot to be interviewed, there's a lot to be studied regarding this Truth and Reconciliation Commission, but you talk about going back to 1939, you talk about going back in history with dictatorships, you talk about losing our rights of the First Amendment, our freedom of speech, everything, and to where we would have to basically hold our hat in our hands and say, oh, I'm sorry that I supported Donald Trump and I'm sorry that I was a conservative. Not going to happen. How dare these people, like former Secretary of Labor Robert Reich and others, try to get this nightmare inducted into our society. How dare these people? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Zeb?
Yes, talk to me.
Okay, I can't hear the radio because I'm in Salt Lake, but I don't know if you heard on the game on Sunday between Green Bay and Tampa Bay on a hot mic, Joe Buck and his cohort, the quarterback from Dallas, were talking about flyovers, and they said that's how much waste of fuel that was, and they said that ain't happening in a Kamala Biden ticket. And so here we have, these two gentlemen who have gotten rich on us being fans who are no longer, what are these guys? I just heard it, that just made me sick.
Well, I'm going to have to find out more about it because I did not hear it because, as I told you, I'm not watching the games. But if it was a comment to belittle or degrade the people in states like Idaho, Utah, etc., then I'm going to find out more about it, and then I'll get a hold of Fox Sports, and I will go after Mr. Buck and Mr. Aikman if I have to.
Well, I just heard it, and I knew you might care. Like I said, I'm just about to Ogden here, and I can't even hear the radio, but I thought this was a pretty important thing that happened. And then I guess, Rush Limbaugh's got terminal cancer. I tell you what, Zeb, I'm going to hang up. Thanks.
All right, buddy. Thank you for your call. Yeah, in regards to Rush Limbaugh, I want to say this because a lot of us in the radio business that are talk show hosts, many, if not most, patterned what he did as kind of the leader going down a rocky trail to get our conservative shows on the air. And I have nothing but respect for Rush Limbaugh. His health is not good. As a matter of fact, the lung cancer is progressing, and he very candidly talked about it yesterday on his program and said that it didn't look good for the future, and you have to admire his toughness and tenacity. But thoughts and prayers to Rush Limbaugh because it doesn't look really good. Caller, good morning. Quickly, I got 1 minute. Go ahead.
Zeb, I just wanted to tell you I bought that book, Rating the Presidents. That's an excellent book.
We had that author
on here a while back. And
yes.
0 to 10.
Yes.
And I've learned more about presidents from Washington up through. I've been reading it out here in the beat truck. But anyway, Obama was a 0, and they couldn't give him anything less. And it was very interesting reading. So, get a chance to get that book. It's great.
I will get that book, and I want to tell you how nice it was for you to call, and it solidifies the fact that we're trying to get the top-notch people on this program. Thank you for taking the time to share that with me. I really do appreciate it.
I bought about 4 books that you had people on, and every one of them has been good. So anyway, keep it up. Thanks.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much. That was nice. This program is brought to you by our major sponsor, and they are our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I really appreciate them, and they have been so good to us. We really thank them for all they do. And don't forget, right now it's tire changing season. Yeah, we got to watch out for the angel dandruff on the road or the ice or the muck and the yuck. Hey, they've got all the tires, all the tread designs, all the sizes for all vehicles. You get in there today to any one of the 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Don't forget the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. That really is a key because we're going to see that temperature dip and get lower, and it's hard on batteries. So make sure your battery's good. If it isn't, they've got plenty for you at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Wow, that's going to put it in the box for today. What have we got cooking tomorrow? We've got Dave Bigo. We've got another attorney coming on from the Pacific Legal Foundation talking about all the fires in the West. And then at 10:06, it's going to be the Idaho Fish and Game report, so don't miss that. We always wrap the program up by saying the way things were are the way things ought to be. And the 4 words that mean the most to me, in God we trust. I hope you have a wonderful day. And we'll be here tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zeb at the Ranch. Adios.